This is an evaluation for the Lodash badge, Lodash Power User 1. So I'm just going to go through the bullet points, talk about Lodash and functional programming, and let's get started. So functional programming is essentially programming where you're going to use pure functions. It's a process of like building software that avoids shareable state. Also side effects, mutable data. It's a declarative type of programming, and you want all of your app state to flow through pure functions. Pure functions is just functions that take an input and always return the same output. Like 2 plus 2 is 4. You're no matter what numbers you put in there, x plus y equals Z, it's always going to be that. It's always going to be the same thing. It's never going to give you some weird output like a random number. Like random numbers is not, it's like an impure function if you're using random math.random and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about Lodash, which is it's a utility that kind of promotes functional programming because everything that Lodash does, it returns exactly what it gets. You get an expected output for the input that you give to Lodash. It's going to do simple utilities, things like um, chunk and string methods, functions that is going to reverse your string, splice them, take off the ends, trim, things like that. I'm going to go over a couple here and discuss why we would use it and how to use it. And what I've done was I've created a React app because how I did Lodash was I did a dev dependency for Lodash, which is in the documentation, you just load npm install Lodash just on your dash save for your dev dependencies. And I created this little React app so that I can demonstrate a couple of the different Lodash functions. And to really show what Lodash does, I'm going to bring up my array. This is all, so Lodash has different methods for different things like arrays, um, collections, strings, dates, functions. There's a bunch more. It's all in the documentation. I'm just going to go through over a couple of them: arrays, collections, and strings. And so here we got something. What I like to start with is chunks. So in order for you to get a chunk from this array here, you would just have to import your Lodash. Okay, and we're gonna use this underscore as the variable for our Lodash. And then, so this is the same thing as saying Lodash dot. So we're going to underscore dot chunk, which is going to take two arguments, an array and a number, and it's always going to return an array because it's part of the array Lodash functions methods. So you just take your array, you dot chunk, you put your array in, you tell how many chunks you want, how many numbers you want in each chunk, and then I assign that to chunks, and then I map through each of those chunks because it's an array. And as you can see out here on the right side, I've just pushed them out to the console, to the application. I've assigned it to L, and I've just made a list element for each one and pushed it to that UL over there. And that's essentially what Lodash does. It takes something, and this is what it's actually doing. It's taking this function here, chunk, which in order to get an actual chunk using JavaScript, you have to go through each of these steps. Each of these steps in order to get that chunk array. And instead of doing that, you either use Lodash, and these are all pre-made methods and functions that allow you to take out some of that, I guess, busy work in your code. And so we can go over a couple of these in each section, and some of them I have over here. This is an app I'm creating. I'm going to try to make like a cheat sheet for Lodash. You click on it, and on the other side it will show you maybe how the JavaScript would look. So on one side it would have the Lodash command, and you click it. On the other side it may have a JavaScript how you would write it in JavaScript. I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. It's just it came to me while I was doing this test, so I figured I'd put it all down before I forgot about it. Okay, so in this, I have created a couple of different components. I created a Lodash array of functions, the Lodash collection function, the string function. We'll start off with array functions. And like I showed you with the chunk, it's essentially going to do what it says. And the documentation is really good for Lodash on explaining what you need, what arguments you need, and what's going to be the output and things like that. So like some things like concat an array, if you want to smash them together, put them together, you would just use lodash.concat and it would take all those things that you would have to do normally and it turns it into one method here or function that you can just use to push your arrays. Okay, and all of these are documented. You can just go through there and look. So we've got .fill, got flatten. So flatten, it's going to go one level deep. So some of the stuff that's not so explanatory, I'll explain. Like fill, that explains you take your array function, or you take your array argument, and you tell it what you want to fill it with, and then it's going to fill it with whatever the second argument is. Same thing with the when you use it with arrays. So if you put an array here, you put in 2, it's going to fill it with 3 2s. See what I'm saying? So it's pretty self-explanatory. Flatten. So this is going to go one level deep. So if I'm going to flatten this, it's going to actually come out as hit this here. See, it's got 1, 2, 3. It's got all these levels, and then when you flatten it, it's going to be one level deep. This because this one has a second level, it's not going to pull it into this level. You would also have to flatten this one also, and then it would flatten one level deep. Index of is just searching for the index of whatever you put on the argument. Join, you do your array. Remember, it's always going to be the array and then whatever you're going to use that's going to be part of the method or function. So like here we want to join all of these objects with this tilde, right? And that's what that says right here. So it's just going to do that to the array. And it always returns a value. Let's see. Head first has been changed. Oh, okay. So dot first has now been changed to dot head. So dot head is going to pull the first object from an array. So if you do dot head, you use dot head instead of dot first. Let's see, dot last and remove. I mean, a lot of these are just, they're very self-explanatory. You tell it what you want it to remove. You know, it's not that it takes 2 arguments. It takes the array and then what you want to do to the array. So here we're going to remove the 2 and the 4, the every other. If it's even. Yeah, we're going to remove if it's even. So we're doing if there's a remainder, then it can stay. Reverse. Oh, and I don't know if this is, I was reading in the documentation and some of the training and stuff that says if a lot of the JavaScript, now there's some JavaScript functions that can take place of the Lodash functions, which kind of do the same thing because it's caught up to Lodash. But from what I understand, it's generally better to just continue to use the Lodash functions if you're using Lodash already in your software. So instead of using that JavaScript function, you just go ahead and continue to use the Lodash function that would do the same thing. And so these are arrays. This is the collection of functions. This is going to return um, an array of objects or collections. This is how you would filter through different objects within arrays and stuff. So let's see, let's go down here. So for each, for each, you're going to take each one of these arrays and you're going to run this function on it. And then you're going to console this value. And so what we got here is 1 and 2, right? For each A and B, function value and key, console the key, A, B. This is not guaranteed to come out as A, B. It could come out B then A, but it just it's not always guaranteed. I guess it's depending on how the application is running. And then so for every true, we're going to pass in an array, and then we're going to pass in the Boolean, and then we're going to say Barney is age is active if he's active. Then we're going to put in 2 of those, and then for every user that has the username Barney and is active as false, we're in a console, and that should be coming up here, false. Dot every user active is false. That's true, because it's going through and comparing every user our array, and we're saying what do we want? Is every active false? Yes, every active is false, so we're going to return true. Every user, are they active? False. See what I'm saying? So that's what we're doing here. It's going to go through the array, which is this array, and it's going to say every user, and it's going to check the users. It's going to go through and see if everything is the same. If it is, it's going to return true. If it's not, it's going to return false. Let's see. Find users. So we created a user array. We ran a dot find, and we ran a function that says return is less than 40. That's what we got here. Barney. Pebbles. Find age 1. Find users active is false. Find users is active. So you can search arrays, objects, shorthand. Let's see. Turn and console flat map 1.2. Duplicate. By includes like I mean, and this is all essentially functions that you can use in order to create your applications and run smoother, quicker, and help debug quicker. And that's Lodash. And most of these I've got consoled out so you can see what their values are returning. I mean, but they're really self-explanatory. Even if you didn't have documentation, you could probably figure it out if you knew you just needed to take what arguments you needed, and that's it. And that's Lodash user one.